Hi guys, this is the first video that I'm going to do showing the behind the scenes implementation for this game that I'm making for a jam, which I'm calling Treat the Streets. So far, this is all I've done to kind of like prototype the idea. I showed a couple of videos where I was kind of walking through various ideas that I had for the jam. So I'm just going to kind of show how I've put this together so far. There's very little code behind this at the moment. So if you have a look kind of closely here, you can see that the house is not very good quality, and that's because the artwork has been scaled up, and I'll show you where I get that from. Now, the main part of this game is the hand here, and this is something that I've taken kind of adapted from a tutorial that I found, but I'm going to just turn some of those things off and just show the scene first of all. So if I just make this a little bit smaller and go into the scene here, I'm just going to turn off some of the things. So let's just turn off the little people. All right, so first of all, I've got the city scene itself. So this was a background that I found online. The size wasn't particularly good, so all I've done there is I've just cropped it down to be 920 by 1080 so it fits exactly into the scene. But then I've ended up moving it up a little bit later. What I realized once I put in the hand, I realized I needed more space for the road. So for the road, I found this image over here, which if I just come out to, ooh, no, not that big. This was just an image of a pub, and what I was looking for specifically was something where I could grab a section of road. So all I've done here, this is Krita, by the way, and I use this quite a lot for editing any kind of artwork that I need for my game. So I've just literally just grabbed a piece of the road up here, and then I've just copied that into its own image. And then what I did is that gave me this single sort of section of road, and I realized I needed a double height. So all I did there, just bring that in. All I did there was I just duplicated the sort of like the first sort of this part of the road there. I just kind of cut that and then put another copy of it underneath to give me the full section. And then when putting that in the game, I was able to sort of move everything up and then just move the city up a little bit. So then I've got these two other items here, this fence and the bushes. All they really are is I found without them, it just looked a little bit strange. If I turn the house back on and then just play that as it is, it looks all right, but I just thought it looked a little bit weird. It's almost like you could fall off the top of that road and go into the city. That's what I thought it kind of looked like. So I felt like I needed something to just kind of section it off. And if I take the house back off again, I've just put this bushes and the railing. And I've got all of those and the houses out of these packs that I found on, I think it was either Vecteezy or Free Pick. Now, looking at this kind of image, I am 99% sure that this has been generated with AI and then just put together from there. And that is the reason why the houses are quite low quality, because I'm having to take out just this little piece of house and then blow it up in the game. I don't think they're brilliant quality. And there's a few different kinds of these. Is that one there? There is from the same author, this one, which has got sort of bigger houses, but they're in a different style, so I'm not really going to use those. But this is where I've got the fence from, and I thought that looked quite decent, and the bushes there. And then there's one more from the same author again. See, I tried to use this bit of fence here, and this is another reason why I think this is AI and not human made, because this is not seamless. And when I try to actually just cut a bit of it in order to enable it to repeat, the bottom part of the whatever that part is, like the brick that goes underneath, that is shorter on the right hand side than it is on the left hand side. So you got to be very careful when working with images like this when they've been made by AI. I mean, I can't prove that it's AI, but it just feels like AI to me. And again, if you have a look over here, you couldn't take out any of these lights and put them in your game because it all overlaps. They're not individual sprites. So I found them online. It's what I've got. It's what I've got to work with. So with regards to the houses, what's important here is that the houses are always on the same level. I want them to appear on the top of the street. And one thing when importing sprites into Unity is that by default, if I just go over to like any of my monster sprites, by default, this little blue circle, this is the pivot point, and the pivot point is always going to be in the middle. So what I had to do when I was importing in my houses was change the pivots. Once I bring in the graphic, I need to change the pivot point here to the bottom center of each one of the houses so that it always appears at a level place. And then in the house, I've simply positioned it where I want, and then I can change the graphic here to be any one of those sprites, and it will still look reasonable. So some of them show, you know, they cover up more or less of the like the bushes and the railings, you know, depending on the size of the house. In terms of layering, all I've got so far, I do this with sprite sorting layers. I've put in 3 here, one for the background, one for the houses, and one for the people. And then on the background, I've put the cityscape itself as -9 just to make sure it appears behind everything else. The fence, the road, and the bushes, they are all just order in layer 0 because they don't overlap each other, so they don't really need to be layered. And then the house itself is on the houses layer. And then my little people, at the moment, these are literally just sprites. The one on the left, this one is actually, no, not that one. The player dude, he's actually an animated character, but I haven't got any code behind any of this yet. So this was my basic scene setup. So what I've got at the moment is just kind of like a dummy system where if I press the space bar, it will just draw a card, and it's kind of like drawing it from the center of the screen and put it on. So on the next video, I'll walk through the code for how I've done that. All right, that's all I've got for this one. Thanks very much for watching, guys.